Hello there, this is Ben Simpson from Vibe Entertainment here once again. As you all well know, usually around this time of year is Oscar season where Hollywood likes to roll the red carpet and introduce and release what they think are a whole bunch of Oscar contenders. Now, despite my cynicism to the whole entire Oscar routine, usually that does provide some of the best movies of the year. But as we well know, a lot of studios have decided to move their big hitters till next year because cinemas not being open. So unfortunately, even now, that is usually a hot period for quality films, obviously is a dead one. But fortunately, there was a few films last week that were released that I kind of just binged because I've just been hungry for, new films to come out, obviously. One of the most anticipated films of the year for me personally was David Finchers' Mank, released on Netflix. This is David Finchers' first film, and I believe in 6 years since Gone Girl. Obviously, he's kind of dipped his toe in other Netflix streaming TV shows such as House of Cards and Mindhunter, which I like, but they lack that flair, that compelling precision that his films have. Not to say that, they're not good in their own right, but, Fincher at the helm by himself is such a riveting filmmaker. I mean, his filmography kind of speaks for itself for films like Seven, Fight Club, Zodiac, Social Network. It's just a crazy, crazy filmography he's accumulated over the years. Now, the subject matter for this film intrigued me, but at the same time, I thought how he's going to handle it. The only other biopic he's probably made are Zodiac and Social Network, which are both great. But basing the film around the screenplay and the writer of Citizen Kane, Mank, the titular character, interested me how he was going to tell a gripping story, especially those who aren't initiated with, golden age Hollywood during the 30s and 40s. And also making a film a character drama about the evolution of a screenplay, despite being, a screenplay to the most celebrated film perhaps of all time, in the film academics culture at least. I was wondering what angle was Fincher going to take in this, what will he have to say about this? And unfortunately, after watching the film, I'm still asking that question. I'm still questioning why he felt the need to tell this story. Mank has a lot of good qualities to it, no doubt. I think the ensemble performances are all very good. I think the dialogue is very witty and very snappy. I think the film, in most regards, looks very handsome. The score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is very out their wheelhouse. Gone is the digital electronic coldness of the scores they previously handed to Fincher in their past films, and instead changes it up to a very brassy, orchestral, somewhat jazzy score, which fits the time period. And this film absolutely commits to looking and feeling like a film that was released during the time where this film was set, which is again that 30s, 40s golden age Hollywood era. But the thing that lets this down majorly is just the story itself. It doesn't really tell us why we should care, that much about these characters and what they're doing. As the main character, Mank, Herman Mankiewicz, is a very one-dimensional character in this film. I'm sure in real life he was a fascinating, swell, fast-talking, charismatic guy, which he reportedly was, and you get that from this film. But his alcohol problem, his alcohol addiction, is a very one-dimensional character flaw, which isn't thoroughly explored as to why that came about. In films, you need to explain someone's faults and where it comes from to make us understand, and this film just doesn't do that. The opposition and the conflict that Mank experiences with basically the politics of Hollywood, this film has a very unfavourable view of Hollywood in that regard, is mildly interesting, but there's not a lot at stake. There's not a lot of drama contrived from the political manoeuvring of the socialist ideologies that were rising up in the Screenwriters Guild at that time, versus how kind of conservative and one could say propaganda-making institution that Hollywood was at the time. Again, these are all frivolous things that, on the surface are interesting, but the film doesn't really have anything new or interesting to say about any of these clashing ideologies. And on that note, this film feels very insider and very inaccessible to people who aren't well read in early 20th century Hollywood. Someone like me who is, has quite a bit of film knowledge was still even struggling with the constant name dropping that the characters are doing in and out of scenes, that the film kind of expects you to know. And if you're not a major film historian, You're not going to know 75% of the things they're talking about, and these studio heads or behind the scenes producers that the film just kind of seemingly expects you to know. And God forbid if you haven't watched Citizen Kane recently, as a lot of the themes in this film are repeated and homage to the Citizen Kane film. Mank bases the characters in that film off people he meets in this film. But if you haven't seen Citizen Kane recently, this will be completely lost on you. And I feel like this film falls in the fault of something like a book adaptation, where you go in, you watch it, you have no understanding what's going on, and yet someone who's read the book tells you, oh, you should read the book, then you understand the film. I believe the film should stand on its own 2 feet, and you come into a film cold and let the story wash over you, and you come out with something on the other end. And this film just fails to do that. It's quite a chore to watch, even a bore at points. And there's so many subplots that the film kind of touches on. One of the things I thought the film was going to focus on that I was most intrigued with is the creative dueling of the screenwriter and the director Orson Welles. And it somewhat kind of, again, touches on it at the end, where they kind of battle for credits of who actually wrote the film. But even that is kind of thrown aside and only given like very, very minor screen time, which I was kind of disappointed in. I thought that would be somewhat of the main conflict. But yeah, even on the visual standpoint that I, complimented earlier, there's some inconsistencies even with that, where Fincher makes so much effort to replicate the film look of the 30s and 40s. Even in the sound design, it has this strange echoey ADR effect put over the actors, like they're on like a set that's echoing. That was very kind of apparent back in the day where this film is based on. But he chooses to shoot digital, and he chooses to shoot in widescreen, which is like, sure, you want to shoot in film and 4:3 to truly replicate this time period. So even on that level, there's inconsistencies. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed in this one. It's just not very engaging. Not a lot of drama derived from the situation. Doesn't really give a lot of reason for the audience to care of what's even going on. It's just very low stakes, very low drama. Not a terrible film by any means, but it's somewhat hard to recommend to people, especially those who aren't, big movie buffs who haven't seen Citizen Kane or not even seen Citizen Kane recently. There's not a lot to grab onto in this film, and I feel that's very disappointing considering, the high talent behind and in front of the camera in this film. I give it 2.5 stars. I'll probably rewatch it and see if it grows on me, but right now, this is not one of the best films of the year, even in a weak film year calendar that this has been.